Hello, my dear. Ready for your next lesson? Good. I thought today we would do something a little bit different, and instead of teaching you something practical about witchcraft, I thought, why not teach you about the history of our craft? I know, you didn't sign up for a history lesson, but bear with me. It is folly, after all, to not know one's own roots. And while we may not trace direct lineage back to the witches of old, at least most of us won't, it never hurts to know where it all started. The origins of our craft, you see. What springs to your mind whenever you think about the witches of old? The witches of Salem, perhaps? Maybe some old names spring to mind, like Catherine Montvoisin, or perhaps Isabel Gaudy. Perhaps the creepy old woman that your parents told you never to go near, the one who lived down the street in the creepy old house. Anyway, one of the oldest recorded witches, real or fictional, that we know of is the old goddess Circe. Now, in ancient Greek, you'll probably hear that pronounced as Kirki, but we're going to go with Circe. Now, Circe was perhaps the original depiction of a witch. She was never called that directly in the old texts, of course. They didn't truly have a word for it. She was referred to mostly as a sorceress, sometimes as an herbalist or a practitioner of medicine, but she was also referred to simultaneously as a human and a goddess. What makes her stand out, perhaps the most, is that she didn't gain these powers over sorcery and witchcraft and herbalism by being a goddess. She learned these traits as a human. She really was the original witch. It may be that becoming a goddess gained her a greater understanding of these powers, but that truly is something special for someone to have such a mastery over these things that even becoming a goddess truly didn't affect things for her that much. Well, you may have read the Odyssey in a history class or an English class, but you probably don't remember her part in it. Well, like so many other particularly strong and powerful women, she was something of a villain in the Odyssey, you know. You see, in the Odyssey, Odysseus's crew was lured by this beautiful song, almost like a siren was calling to them. But the song led them to Aea, which was Circe's own island. And it was there that they found the witch in question. However, she had little patience for these unruly, probably very smelly and uncouth men. So, what did she do but turn the majority of them into animals, because she could. And frankly, I don't blame her. Unfortunately, one of them managed to escape and go warn Odysseus about what was happening, and the rest of the story is your typical Greek myth, you know. She, quote-unquote, entices him into staying and becoming her husband. But doesn't that almost take away agency in your mind? I mean, Odysseus was this great hero with a great many tasks still ahead of him, and this woman, this mortal-turned-goddess, was able to charm him into forgetting his duties for over a year. If you ask me, that is some true witchcraft. But, of course, that kind of witchcraft is always demonized in old works of fiction. Regardless, something often overlooked with with Circe is that in most accounts of her turning men into these pigs and lions and beasts, it's often noted that those she transformed are happier than they were as humans. This is interesting to me, particularly because I think it almost implies that Circe had some sort of insight into the nature of souls, like she could tell what a soul truly longed to be. You see, these men weren't truly suffering when she transformed them. They were living good lives. Most of them were happy. But, of course, you know how it goes. Strong women in fiction, demonized, villainized. Well, it's up to us, you, me, witches like us, to know the full story. It was said by most sources that Circe was the daughter of Hecate, the patron goddess of all things to do with witchcraft. Whether she was a true daughter or not is up for debate, but one thing that is said by most sources is that she definitely was a priestess of the goddess. Most people who do know her because of the Odyssey, but that's not the only myth in which she appears. You're familiar, aren't you, with the story of Jason and his Argonauts? Yes, they were sent to retrieve a golden fleece that belonged to this golden-winged ram. Well, it was also, as you probably remember, protected by a great dragon. Interestingly, it was only through the help of Circe's own niece that Jason was able to get the golden fleece. She was a witch just like her aunt, and with her help, Jason was able to sneak past the sleeping guard dragon, and, well, the rest is history. He stole the golden fleece and made his escape. Well, the witch escaped along with Jason, but they ended up being pursued by her brother. Now, the witch, Circe's niece, being the bad bitch that she was, decided that the logical solution was to simply cut her brother into pieces and drop them into the depths of the ocean. Well, this kind of made Zeus upset, so as punishment he sent a great storm that was intended to, well, destroy the ship, throw it off course, and murder the crew. It was said that the only way that they could prevent this inevitability was with the help of Circe. They had to receive her blessing, and her blessing alone, because she was the only one capable of delivering them from this horrific fate. Now, partially because her niece was with them, but partially because she simply is a good person and didn't want these people to die for their sins, she agreed, and she performed a rite that blessed them and purified them. That was about her only involvement with the story. She gave them her blessing, and they went about their way, and, well, you know the rest. Jason returns home with the golden fleece and claims his throne, yada yada. But it cannot be overlooked that Jason and all of his Argonauts would have perished were it not for her and her powerful magic. It was a while after all of this happened that the events of the Odyssey play out, and Odysseus and his men arrived on our island. I've always found it particularly intriguing that during the events of the Odyssey, she's generally portrayed as the bad one. Like, somehow it's her fault that Odysseus was so enamored by her charms that he left his own wife behind for over a year. Like, it's her fault that he did that. It's never said once that she cast any sort of charm on him, or that she forced him to stay. It's just the fact that she was a beautiful, powerful woman who captivated the attention of this great warrior. And, of course, men are perfect, infallible things who can do no wrong, so obviously it was completely against Odysseus's will at the end of the day, and, he had no volition in the matter, and anyway, Whether you're one who subscribes to the supernatural or not, it's always good to offer reverence to Circe. She is, in many ways, like her mother, something of the progenitor of our craft. Fictional though her origins may be, there is power in ideas, and there's power in figures, and Circe is certainly no exception. Now, you might be wondering exactly why I'm telling you about some old Greek myths. Well, I think it's important that we pay our respects to those who came before us. Everyone knows of the Salem witches and what they had to endure, and of course we will talk about them another time, but I start with Circe because, well, you have the option to pay reverence to her. Now, you may not subscribe to this idea, but offering reverence to certain deities can help with witchcraft. It's another one of the things like teaching you how to make potions. It may sound far-fetched and out of the realm of all reality, but it can help. Whether you choose to believe that that help is from a higher power, or whether you choose to believe that that help is coming from within yourself, having a source, a power to draw upon that's greater than your own, it's like having a teacher that's always with you, and Circe is an excellent teacher. Pay her respect in your mind and actions, and you'll start to notice that this whole world of witchcraft, it starts to become a little less tough to grasp. You'll find concepts start coming to you a little easier. And perhaps it's entirely in your own mind. Perhaps you're simply tricking yourself into working harder by giving reverence to this figure of myth, but perhaps there's something a little more to it. You never know.